And we are now live with our 30th edition of Nansen Office Hours. We had some technical difficulties getting started there, but we are up and running now. Alex, how you doing this week?
Not too bad. Good to be back with Office Hours. How are you doing yourself?
It is good to be back. I kind of missed this over the past few weeks.
Yeah.
It's good.
So you had an enjoyable reason for being out, and I had a less enjoyable reason for being out. What have you been doing the last few weeks?
Yeah, so it started with the Miami conference like 3 weeks ago, whenever that was. I've lost track of time at this point. So I was in Miami, and then I popped down to Mexico. I worked down there for a bit, and then took 2 weeks completely unplugged, cold turkey, disconnected from the crypto markets. And Let me tell you, it was invigorating. If anyone has been on a marathon since DeFi summer last year and is feeling a bit tired, I highly recommend taking, at the very least, a bit of time off, but like completely unplugged. No Twitter, no social media, no crypto, no nothing.
Did you do like a silent retreat or?
I did do a lot of meditation, but not a silent retreat. But I just hopped around a few different spots in Mexico. I was in Mexico City for a bit, then Oaxaca, and then by the beach in Puerto Escondido, and met just some really cool other backpackers and had great conversations, and reconnected with the real world outside of crypto.
Nice. That sounds really good. Sounds refreshing.
It was. And how about you?
So I had a little different break. Ended up getting a hernia, and basically had to go to the hospital to get surgery. So I went under the knife, and I thought it was going to be like, you have the surgery and you go back in the evening, right? But it was pretty bad, and they kept me at the hospital for like 2 nights. And it turns out it's like a 6-week recovery period from that stuff. So I've been out. I thought I could do the last week's office hours, but then I ended up getting an infection after the operation, literally the day of the office hours. So I had to go back again. But now I'm on a pretty nice antibiotics cure, or treatment, I should say. Hopefully all the stuff will be fixed in a couple of days, and then over the next few weeks I'll recover. But good enough to do the office hours.
We hope. If he passes out midway
if
through,
I die,
ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah. At least you'll see it live. So that'll be fun.
Maybe we can break the view count of the last one you did with Daryl. Can you give us a recap of how that went?
Oh yeah, that was really cool actually. So the plan when you went on holiday was that I would bring in some guests, right? And Daryl was gracious enough to come on the office hours show. He was talking about his own investments, how he thinks about a lot of different projects in the space, but also how he uses Nansen. And it was pretty cool to see how he's such a power user of Nansen. He's been using it from the beginning, but we, literally got him to share his screen using Nansen instead of me. And you can see, obviously, he's got like all the kind of motor muscle built in, navigating like top depositors and different dashboards. I think he even had a few like tricks that I hadn't thought about myself in terms of how to use the dashboards. But we have it, recorded on YouTube, so I would definitely encourage everyone to check it out. I think it is also the most viewed video already that we have on our YouTube channel.
There you go. Yeah, I think that's actually an important thing to highlight, is how everyone does have a different way of using Nansen. Basically, we create tools to explore on-chain data, and everyone can take a different path, and everyone feels more comfortable using different tools. I did a demo yesterday for the first time in a little while, with the new dashboards, and it was fun. It was fun figuring it out live, of like what things to show people, and it's always fun chatting with users as well, like people who have used Nansen a little bit, and understanding like what they want to do and then try and figure out the right recipes for them or the right paths for them. So for example, like they wanted to monitor certain wallets or like trade like smart money wallets. And so helping them figure out, where to find these smart wallets to begin with, how to analyze them to see if they're relevant for them, and then turning on specific smart alerts. Another example was they wanted to know when to get out of certain liquidity pools. And so I showed them how to use top depositors to find the top depositors, turn on alerts for them for specific tokens so that if those are moving in large volume, they can get out or at least be alerted of it. But yeah,
that's really cool.
Everyone's got their own sort of tips, tricks, techniques, all that.
Yeah, I think that's also like one of the really cool things about Nansen, that everyone has like a unique perspective, even if they're using the same tool. So it's not like you just log into kind of like a website and everyone sees the same thing. If you go to CoinGecko, obviously everyone sees the top ranking of the coins. If you click on Ethereum, you see the same price chart, right? But the sort of combinatorics of all the different parameters you can plug into Nansen just gives it like an infinite space of stuff to explore. And there's a very high chance that if you're looking at a specific dashboard for some specific wallet or token or smart contract, you might be the very first person to actually see that specific perspective, which I often think about when I use the dashboard. So I think that's one of the unique things about it as a tool.
Yeah, I think the only thing that is undisputed is that the token god himself is the ultimate user, the ultimate power user of this tool. So without further ado, maybe we can share your screen and dive into the dashboards and see the on-chain data through the eyes of a god.
Let's do it. Through the eyes of a god. That's a bit much, no?
Come on, you've been away for a couple of weeks. I got to build you back up here.
Yeah. I feel pretty mortal right now. Let me just tell you that. So what's new? There's actually a lot of new stuff. Maybe one thing we can look at is the NFT dashboards, because we've been showing these a bit before, but they were pretty unpolished and most people did not have access to them. But now if you go to more up here and you go to NFT, you can see a few different dashboards. And NFT Paradise is probably the best place to start because it gives you kind of like an overall ranking of NFT projects based on the last 24 hours of activity.
I'll also add that beyond us making headway on these dashboards, the NFT markets have been going absolutely insane the past couple weeks. It has been wild to see all of these new drops that are happening, all of these sales on like art blocks, a lot of avatar projects. Like yesterday, or I can't remember if it was yesterday or 2 days ago, was Degens. Deadheads is quite an interesting one. The reveal for that is today. Deadheads is still unrevealed, at least when I checked this morning. And the mint for that was probably, I think, around 0.1 ETH. It was anywhere between like 0.08 and like 0.14 or something like that. But now it's already at 0.4 is the floor price.
Wow.
Same with Cool Cat. I think the floor price as of this morning was 0.4, and the mint for that one was like 0.02, like a week ago. That's the one right under Bored Ape Yacht Club. So these things have been going just absolutely sicko mode, and it's pretty interesting to watch, I have to say, and participate in.
Because you're pretty big on NFTs yourself, right?
I might be.
Okay, so the way you go from here is basically you see something you find interesting. By the way, over here you can see when the contract was deployed. So that gives you an indication of how fresh it is. Like Degens, I don't know what that is, but it's like deployed 44 hours ago, and Deadheads is 7 days ago. So actually, we can look at Deadheads, right? It's showing a bit of activity here. So it was deployed 7 days ago. There's 10,000 NFTs in circulation. Looks like the price, this is the average price, has been going up, but you can also see like the floor price on a per day basis. That's the red line. You can see the average price, that's the green line, and then the blue line is the max price for that day. and it looks like at least the average price and the min price has generally been going up. And you can also see some pretty cool things here because the NFT markets are pretty illiquid, right? So every transaction can kind of be visualized. So you can see individual transactions here, and you can see that it's been trending upwards if you just look at the slowly moving average. But because this is Nansen, you want to know who are the different addresses that are actually accumulating these tokens. And so you can break that down and get an understanding of who has been receiving many tokens. What have they been doing? Are they just hoarding them? Are they going to be sending them out? And the top balances here, for example, you can see that Flip Drago has 110 NFTs. They received 120, but sent 10 of them. Maybe they sold. I mean, actually, that's something you can find out very easily by drilling down one step further into their contract and just looking at what they've been doing with NFTs. And now this takes you into the wallet profiler, but on this NFT tab, which is new. So you can see what they've been doing with their NFTs. And so, yeah, actually looks like they've been minting a lot of stuff from a collection that we still haven't tagged, it appears. Or maybe this just needs a bit of time to load. But this is probably, here we go. I just needed some time to load. Okay, Crypto Funks. This might be a very active address when it comes to NFTs. They've been minting like tons of these. And Deadheads, there we go. These are the sends, right? So they've been sending them to a flipdrago.eth star. So that's probably one of their other addresses that used to own that ENS name. Interesting. Okay. So that's just to show you kind of top level Paradise into this specific Deadheads, and then you could drill down on FlipDrago, the top holder of this NFT collection.
So I'll just add some color on that. So if you go back to the wallet profiler, a kind of under valued stat is the mint number. So if you scroll back down to that little table and you see the ID of those ones that he sent were all in the mid-20s. So with Nansen, a really key feature is the fact that you can follow certain wallets, or at least identify wallets and turn on smart alerts for them and kind of monitor them a bit more closely. The fact that, well, first of all, this person is clearly extremely active in the world of NFTs. The fact that they minted ones that were in the mid-20s out of this like large collection means that they had their finger on the trigger right away. Like, I mean, it looks like they also got some in the thousands. They were kind of monitoring it, but these ones are in the mid-20s, so they were ready to go right at launch. They probably smashed the gas and got those low numbers. Now, usually there's not a huge premium, if any, for these low numbers. Sometimes there are, but yeah, it's just something to note as you're kind of identifying good wallets to follow.
Yeah, that's a really good. That's a really good observation. I would also probably be curious to see like what are some of the first stuff that they were active with. There's like APYmon.
Maybe they watched that office hours.
So, maybe Meebits. They bought a Meebits. It's kind of nice because you have this like buy or receive, and so that makes it a bit easier to parse when you see these tables. Anyway, yeah, we don't have to zoom in too much on this specific address, but there's a lot of stuff you can get from this, and you can also see the hodlers in terms of number of people holding this collection. This is actually I think a pretty useful metric when it comes to NFT collections, because if you only have 10,000 pieces and you have like 2,700 addresses holding it, that says something about the demand side. So it's an imperfect metric, but obviously you can never have more addresses than there are NFTs in that collection. So the closer that gets to 10,000, I'd say, the more bullish it is, because it distributes the NFTs across many different addresses. You could game it and so on, but like it's a pretty good number to keep an eye on as well.
I think a histogram on this would be really helpful of number,
like how many they hold, basically.
And like bucketed, because you would find people like like Pranksy or like Maki, Big Brother, and like some of these like huge whales holding like 100 plus, and then you'd see a long tail of people like holding a lot less, and then like one.
That's a really good point. It should be really easy for us to create that. We could probably add it to the hodlers chart in a similar style as the seniority distribution. You can also look at specific trades for this collection, but I actually wanted to look at maybe one of the other collections. This one seems to have a bit more traction, at least now in terms of trading volume. Seems to have had a pretty big day today in trading volume, relatively speaking. Also, all the price charts are going up. It looks like there was a big transaction here from an epic NFT collector at 19 ETH. You can actually click this, and it shows you that specific item for that collection. We don't actually show the image in here, but we should add loading for it. But if you wanted to, you can actually just click through an OpenSea, and you should be able to find it here. So this is the item. It went for 19 ETH, as you can see here.
So if you look at the properties on that one.
Yeah, properties, these ones, right?
So exotic 2, the gorilla costume and the deep sea bronze, both, or all of those are pretty rare.
Yeah.
So usually what's happening in these kind of initial week following a launch is people are trying to figure out what's valuable. Sometimes it's obvious. Sometimes the data doesn't load really clearly. And so people are kind of like scrolling through these collections and trying to figure out what are rare traits, what would be valued in the future. Sometimes it's aesthetic. Sometimes it's purely based on the numbers. There's certain characteristics on different collections that are more valued based on how prominent they are or how subtle they are. So like there's a lot to look at, but usually there's two things going on. It's the top tier pieces that are selling quite a bit, and then just like the floor ones. So the floor is getting swept is effectively what it's called. And it means like just the floor pieces are all getting gobbled up by people who want exposure to it, because if like the floor is basically like the lowest price anyone is willing to sell a cool cat at or any NFT at. And so the floor price is relevant because it's basically like if you want exposure to cool cats, you have to buy at the very least at the floor price. And so,
or maybe another way to put it as well, it's like if you wanted to market sell one of your NFTs in that collection, that's the price you would be able to get right away.
Not guaranteed, because
it is because of if it has an index token like NFTX or Muse or something like that, and that tends to track the floor price, right?
I guess yes. It would actually be interesting to analyze how effective that is for tracking the floor price.
Yeah, we could look into that more. But for example, if you wanted to sell, actually, you can find something here. Like if you wanted to sell a hash mask right away, right? You can actually just go here. Well, you can market buy these, but you could sell. Okay, that's if you had some of these some of these NFTs, you can actually market sell it like into this bundle. This is NFT 20, but I think you could do the same thing with NFTX and a few other projects. So you're right. Like it's not necessarily identical, but it is a very, very similar thing if the liquidity is like high enough in these pools.
Just as a side note on that, because we've covered NFT 20 in the past with Muse token back when we were noticing that a certain fund had accumulated or was accumulating a large amount of Muse token. I think there is now staking available on NFT 20. So you can stake your Muse, and there is a 10-day lockup, I believe, just as a heads up.
Yeah. I'm staking myself, actually. We might see it here.
Does it say what the yield is or what the APY is?
It's not, which is kind of annoying. Also, it doesn't show up the staking here now. Maybe it's because I have to connect my wallet. But typically it lazy loads this little Muse staking box here in between. But I might have to connect the wallet so we can see that. Yeah, but that's true. So then you get a proportion of all the trading fees from the type of trading we just looked at. And full disclosure, as you can see in Nansen, like I bought Muse tokens and I've staked them. I don't know if you've done the same since you already knew about the staking.
I didn't stake them, but I have some.
You have aped in a bit.
For me, it's part like I said, I'm not sure how accurately this tracks the floor price, or I haven't used it enough to really confirm that this is like a great tool. However, I do really believe that NFTs are going to keep going up in price. I think it's everyone was expecting DeFi summer, but in reality, we're getting NFT summer, and it's for me, it's kind of like a picks and shovels play on NFTs. You can certainly play these different collections, and I am playing them to the best of my abilities. Not that my abilities are great in NFT flipping, but sometimes it's a much easier bet to just buy some picks and shovels projects like NFT20 or Muse rather. Like I won't even bother listing some. I'm not showing.
Yeah,
it's
something to think about. I think that's a good thesis, and the fact that they have like a good team and they have backing from well-known crypto funds that we've talked about before is of course positive as well. I just wanted to give one anecdotal data point here because in NFT20 you can look at one of these collections like Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? And it only has 8 NFTs in the pool, so it is very liquid. But the floor price there is 2.75 ETH. And if you look at NFT God mode, the min price, maybe we should actually call it floor price. The min price is 285 ETH, excuse me. So at least those numbers are quite similar when it comes to like for an NFT collection. And this is like the kind of last trading price that we've seen in the last 24 hours. Of course, we could check another one. We could check, I don't know, maybe something that's more liquid, like hash masks. Oh, by the way, we should. One cool thing is that they have liquidity incentives for these collections. So that's one way that they're able to get people to deposit, say, hash masks, because you can actually take the kind of NFT20 tokens that you get back from putting your NFTs in here, and then you can provide liquidity for them, and then stake the LP tokens and get Muse rewards. So that's like how they've kind of bootstrapped the liquidity. But if you look at hash masks, let's see, there hasn't been very much activity in hash masks lately in terms of trading. There's like actually very little activity. So you might get some outliers there, right? But the floor price in this collection is 0.38 ETH. And if you look here, yeah, it's 0.42. So it's like, within 10 or 20% of that price. So it's not too, again, it's not too far off. And I would probably say that, this number would be quite similar to there. And if you actually go, well, actually now it updated because it had a cached version, 0.30. So it's actually not as close, but it's in the same range. And it looks like someone was able to pick up on OpenSea a cheaper hash mask. And then if they had just market sold that into this NFT bundle, they would have been able to arb it. So the ones that actually bought it.
Yeah, yes, but the liquidity, even though they are incentivizing it, isn't fantastic. And so you're definitely not getting that full price that is listed there. There's going to be at least like 2 to 5% slippage, I think, if you're doing a full one. Yeah,
I would love to see how big the slippage is, but yeah, it's probably relatively large, right? Anyway, cool. I think that's a pretty good discussion on NFTs and the liquidity side of it. We could also look at the Muse token in token God mode as well, because why not? And see if people are actually making use of this new staking protocol. or staking contract that they have.
And again, not an endorsement from Muse. We're just using it as an example here.
Yeah. So this is showing how much Muse tokens can be found on exchanges. It's the lower line here. It seems to pretty much in the recent weeks, seems like it peaked at 21%, and it's steadily been going down. So it's now at 11%. And so, that could be evidence of people picking it up. It primarily has been on Uniswap, and you can see how the tokens have been moving out of Uniswap in general. If you look into notable wallets, I wonder if I'm going to see my name here, if I'm notable enough. Let's see, this just needs to load. It shows the cached version first.
But also top balances, not changes, unless you aped in this week.
Yeah, I was thinking if you see like balance change or like a large transaction or some stuff like that. Because the Muse staking, I think, just recently launched, and that's when I did the transaction. Ooh, there I am, boom. So you can see NFT20 staked Muse. That's the top address that has been receiving Muse tokens by far. So there's a lot of these Muse tokens moving into that staking contract. Oh, look at that. DeFi whale.eth 4 hours ago.
I'd like to see how quick you were on the trigger. If we go to top depositors and sort by first in.
Okay, let's do it. So now I scroll down to top balances. The staked Muse address was actually pretty much created like less than 48 hours ago. And it already holds like 18% of the Muse tokens. So if I go to depositors, then we should be able to see who has actually been depositing. It was 108,000 tokens last time this dashboard was loaded, which was, I think, around 6 hours ago. Now it's 115,000. It just updated there now.
Do you think we can get a line chart of balance over time?
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, you can get that from Wallet Profiler for token. So I'll bring that up separately, but yeah, it should be in the same view. That's a good point. So look at that. I'm one of the top stakers. Obviously this is small cap token, right? I've got DeFi whale.eth right below me.
Nice.
I feel honored. And so, yeah, you're asking who's first in. So if I sort here, you see I'm not even on the first page among the first people who did this. Very nifty deployer, that makes sense, right? Very nifty is like the team behind this. So they probably wanted to test that everything worked as expected. So they first did a transaction 47 hours ago, almost 2 days ago. And then people, over the hours afterwards, were kind of putting in small amounts. Then around 44 hours ago is when more people started aping in. Let's see, if you click through here, yeah, I'm pretty late, to be honest, late to the party here in terms of depositing.
Sleeping.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, I should, there I am, 22 hours ago. Okay.
All right, but when you did go in, you really ate up that pool. You were pretty large compared to the other depositors.
I think it was like almost 4% of the pool. I don't know what I am now. I'd probably like 3%, something like that. Anyway, so that's kind of cool. Like you can see how that project works, and you can understand a bit better. Like, oh, here's the balance chart you wanted to see, right? So it was launched here, 60,000, and it's basically doubled over the last 48 hours to almost 120,000.
Oh, okay, that is useful. I think it would also be useful to see USD value of that over time.
Yeah.
So you could see like, what it was trading at, or like what the TVL is.
Yeah, good point. Cool. Maybe we can talk about some other project? Are there any like requests in the chat?
Let's keep talking about NFTs forever.
Yeah. I mean, we could look at NFTX. I mean, just to kind of balance it out a bit here. I'm not a holder of NFTX, so I can't be accused of shilling. Oh, invalid address. No, it's not wallet profiler. My bad. Wrong hotkey there. We could bring that up and see if there's anything interesting going on with NFTX in the metrics, at least, and compare and contrast.
And then after that, there was a request in the chat to look at Rail token.
Cool. Can do. So if we compare Muse, maybe we should have like a compare function, something like what you have with similar web and tools like that, where you can compare two different websites, which ones have the most traffic. It would be kind of nice if you could compare two tokens. But I mean, for now, I guess it's good enough to just like put them in different tabs and look at them like this. So Muse has like 11% of the total supply on exchanges, but NFTX has like 18%. So I'd say that's maybe a point in favor of Muse in the sense that probably there's a stronger liquidity sink for Muse. If you
mean the staking contract? Couldn't you argue that there's better liquidity for
you
could NFTX?
You could definitely. That's the flip side of it. But if you want that kind of bullish, like, oh, they're running out of tokens, right? What is it? Supply side liquidity crisis or whatever.
Yeah.
Then you want to see that number go down.
One thing to note is one is mainly on Uniswap, the other is mainly on SushiSwap, and so I'd be interested to see the APY of the staking there.
Exactly. So Uniswap here and SushiSwap here. So NFTX is more of a SushiSwap coin, probably because they have liquidity incentives, or
maybe through Nansen. Yeah.
What else? What about notable? We could look at like hodlers. How many addresses actually hold these different tokens? So like 4,600 peaked, and it's actually been going down. Either people have been selling, or maybe some of them have been putting their Muse into staking contracts. Interesting is it looks like it peaked around the same time. That's kind of curious. 31st of March. Wow. Yeah, that's kind of interesting. That was really when kind of that first wave of NFT hype really exploded, right? The seniority distribution, how does that look? Most of the NFTX holders have had the tokens more than 90 days, like 89%. While with Muse, you have a bit more fresh addresses. So 70, well, it's not a huge difference, but 78% of addresses have held them more than 90 days, or they first received them more than 90 days ago. And then if you look at notable wallets, I think it could be interesting to look at the top balances for each one of the two to get an idea of like the breakdown of where the tokens are actually sitting. Let's see. So for, well, we've already seen the Muse one, like a lot of it is in the staking pool. A lot of it is in the Muse Ether Uniswap pool. And then there's this, which I think maybe is an old staking contract. And then there's this one, which we've revealed before, is like a vesting, effectively is a vesting contract for at least one counterparty. Maybe I think it's two counterparties, two crypto funds that invested in Muse and are receiving their tokens over a 6-month vesting period, if I recall correctly. There's a master chef here. And there's actually Set Protocol, MVI token. So it's part of some index product on Set Protocol, probably. But with NFTX, there's this app proxy upgradable, which maybe is a multisig. I'm not 100% sure. Then there's a SushiSwap pool, a second, kind of mirroring the Muse project as well. And then the other ones, well, there's a deployer that holds 9%, a few other sushi swap pools, and some smart LPs that are just holding the tokens. Interesting.
That MVI on set protocol is, I just looked it up. It's an index called the Metaverse Index. If you go to tokensets.com/portfolio/MVI.
Like this?
Mm-hmm.
Ooh, nice. Metaverse Index. See more. NFTX. Muse. Ah, there you go. That's it. Huh. That's pretty cool. Axie as well. Decentraland.
Axie has been going crazy, like Axie token and Axies as a whole.
Yeah. The sad thing, of course, that's amazing for them and for those of us who are lucky Axie bag holders. But the sad thing is that they are now on a different chain, and we don't have that chain supported yet in Nansen. But if people want us to support it, then please let us know.
Ronin, right?
Ronin, yes, that's right. It's an EVM chain, so it's not a lot of work. I mean, it's not a huge piece of work for us to add it, but of course, it's only one project that's on that chain, so we haven't prioritized it very high yet. But of course, Axie being literally the #1 NFT project in the world right now, it might actually that might actually justify us implementing support for it, but depends on what users want.
Are our Axie dashboards still relevant?
Not, I would say not really. The ones that we did for them as a project, we've, I think, actually taken them down because it doesn't really have any activity on Ethereum. We do have this the AXS token god mode, but they also have 2 different tokens on Ethereum, one old, and they had to upgrade it to a new one because there was a kind of a bug in the first one.
Was that
so no, those they had the same version. They had the AXS token deployed twice on Ethereum because the very first one had a small bug in it, not like a security bug, but it wasn't emitting transfer events correctly, which screwed up a lot of the analytics, and so they had to deploy it over again. And then in addition, they've deployed it on Ronin. So there's actually 3 different versions of it out there, which screws with kind of the on-chain overview. If you want to have a full overview, it's not super easy to read right now.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was a request on looking at Rail, right?
Yeah, we've really gone down the rabbit hole here. Let's check out Rail.
Cool. So that's just Rail, as in RAIL.
Yes, and I'm guessing it's Railgun. I'm not sure. I'm going off memory here, but Railgun is like a privacy thing.
Let's see if we maybe we have to use token god mode custom because we don't have it here, but that's a good chance to show people how that works. So
let me send to you on StreamYard if you've got it open.
I do. You gonna send the address or?
Yeah, I just sent in StreamYard.
Nice. Cool.
Yo, I'm backstage in the chat there.
Yo, backstage. So now to do this, I have to go to token god mode custom, which still has the hilarious old user interface that we have for Nansen. But this is still here because sometimes we might not have a token in our list of tokens, and then you can take and plug it in here instead in token god mode custom. I'm assuming it has 18 decimals. That's like the default for most tokens. And man, I haven't looked at this in a long time actually. The old skin looks kind of funny. So we have 5.9% of the token supply on exchanges. That's not very much. It's been going up though over the last few days. It's a very new project, right? Launched on July 3rd. Has liquidity on Uniswap, SushiSwap, but also Balancer. The Binance, not sure if that's legit or if it's just someone who sent some tokens to a Binance account. That's quite likely, but I'm not 100% sure. Then you can go down and look at the balance changes. So you can sort here to find the top accumulators of the token, and you can see who's been sending out tokens. The zero address is probably when they minted it, right? So that was kind of the first thing that was done with this token. You see some smart money addresses, Flash Boys and the Smart LP. And you see some high gas consumers sending it to Disperse. And so Disperse probably will have distributed this to a bunch of different addresses out there. So here's what the balance sheet looks like.
Yeah, maybe that's maybe we can zoom out real quick and mention like 2 or 3 things one could look at. The question was specifically looking to find genuine whales accumulating rail. Can Nansen visually break that down? So that's one thing. Is I guess looking at this balance sheet and seeing who's accumulating. And then maybe we can just dive into some other things that would be relevant for analyzing the health of a project or the kind of accumulation of a project.
Yeah. So maybe what we can, there are a few things we can look at. So for the accumulation question, I would normally look at balance changes. And so here, so whales accumulating it, well, there is these 2 smart money addresses that have been receiving these tokens, which could be evidence that there's some accumulation going on. Are they whales? I mean, at least they're smart money. So we could look into these addresses separately if we wanted to.
So something to note is Rail is trading at $0.50 right now, 50 cents. So this top holder has 2.5 million. So these are actually pretty significant accumulators.
Yeah. So you said 0.5, right? So this is like 800,000. This Flash Boy. Yeah. It's a small cap token, but these made like pretty big investments into it. I'd probably be curious to look more at these guys. So, I mean, you could look at the depositors, like where did they get these tokens from? Let's do that on those 2 whales. It's always good to kind of validate a bit, like how they actually acquired these tokens. Let's see, it's gonna load. 1inch, okay. So perhaps they actually just bought it off 1inch. But there's also a CDP creator wallet that sent them tokens.
Well, that could just be another one of their wallets that they just bought on multiple exchanges or like multiple wallets.
Yeah. Oh, bulk sender. So the other one received in bulk from this one. And I would actually want to check out, oh man, where did the link go? We used to have a link here, so we can actually look it up. But I'll just do a little shortcut here and plug in. Maybe we could see in deposit address, the bulk sender, where did that receive its tokens? So what kind of, is this from the team or is it something else? Looks like that there were 2 transactions made 4 days ago to the bulk sender, and then the bulk sender sent these tokens. I'd be interested in knowing who else they sent to, because maybe then you'd be able to spot like seed investors or something like that. So for that, I'm going to spin up top recipients, and I'm going to effectively just copy in the same things here. So I'll copy in the sender, and I'll copy in the token address. And now we will see who has been receiving Rail tokens from this bulk sender proxy. And those could be like early investors. And you might want to send up smart alerts for those, right? If they're like seed investors that are like dumping on the project, or I have no idea about this project, so I'm not throwing any, unsubstantiated rumors out there. But looks like there were like 134 wallets that received tokens from the bulk sender. And in fact, our friend, the Smart LP, is the top recipient. So maybe they participated in a sale or something like that. Perhaps the person asking about this knows about this already, but like for someone who doesn't know anything about this project, like me, this is quite helpful to get an understanding of like what actually took place and how these tokens were distributed in the first place. So it looks like the Smart LP received tokens potentially through some sale, but the other one, the Splash Boy, actually picked up the tokens, it looks like, through 1inch. So that you could say that's evidence of accumulation on that one, but the other one seems to have been maybe someone who just participated in a sale.
So one thing I would note here on in terms of whales, so between the top, so 1, 2, so 9, 12, 15, 18, 20, 22, 23, let's say 25, 26, roughly like 26% or whatever, like 30% is held by these like top 15 wallets or something like that. I mean, those numbers are not completely accurate, but the total token supply is 100 mil. And so there is actually huge concentration of token balance in these top holders. These could be team wallets. We don't have them labeled just yet. But if this was directly from the sale, I would say this is a large amount in a very small number of people's hands.
Yeah, I think it's likely team wallets, but we could actually, even before we have like very clear labeling for this project, because clearly it's not really been on our radar, you could do the same thing as we just did, and you can look at depositors for them. So even if you're not very clear, well, DEX Trader is not that informative, I want to figure out this 3.125 million, where do they get their tokens? I would probably click through on depositors to see who deposited those tokens into the wallets. If they come straight from, this high gas consumer, which perhaps is like a minter or something, 0x76. Yeah, and so they received from both of those. And then this one actually received from 0x055, which is a different wallet. But this high gas consumer, you could do the same exercise that we did before and see who has this high gas consumer wallet sent to, and what is this high gas consumer. In fact, I'm going to just do a quick look in Wallet Profiler to understand this one better as well. So these investigations, sometimes we will kind of done them for you, and then we will have labels already, so you don't have to go through all this stuff. But even if we haven't, sometimes you could just use our tools and dig deeper and figure out what these things are. So this actually deployed, you can see here, and related wallets, deployed contract rail token, right? Here. So this is the deployer of the rail token. So the deployer sent the tokens to these two, so they're very likely to be team wallets.
My kind of midway analysis of what we're looking at here. So this high gas consumer is the private sale, or like kind of the deployer and the people who did the private sale. The bulk sender that we saw was probably a public sale.
Could be. Yeah. That could be. And you could look into, to test some of these hypotheses, you could look into this and say, hey, let me look at if there's any ETH coming into this high gas consumer, for example. I mean, there has to be, of course, some to fund it. Yeah, actually, it looks like mostly it's just been funded with 1 ETH from a pool creator, and then it's been used to probably make a lot of transactions. Yeah. So I don't think it was maybe it wasn't a token sale, but yeah, something like what you described, I think is probably accurate.
I wonder how accurate you actually are on this analysis.
Well, I mean, what I would say for sure is this address which we could plug that into top depositors as well, right? This address probably received its tokens from the 0 address because it minted the token. So we know that this one deployed the actual token contract. That we saw in Wallet Profiler. And here you go, right? It received 50 million Rail tokens from the 0 address, which is basically a mint. And for some reason, it also received a bit of tokens later. I don't know why they sent tokens back to this one, but fair enough. And then if you wanted to do let's just do it right while we're here. So if you wanted to do the same thing and understand top recipients, you can also plug this in and see who the high gas consumers sent to. And those are, very likely project-related addresses. For example, team wallets. Or it could be early investors or like vesting contracts and things like that. So now we're going to see, the sort of Genesis wallet. Who did they send tokens to? And here you have it, right? They sent to this DEX trader, and they sent to this high activity address, and et cetera, et cetera. And you could drill down into all of these if you wanted to figure out what's actually going on.
So here's a question. Because as you mentioned, we do these analyses and we try and label things, but there's thousands of projects out there. We can't be in all places all at once. What do you think would be a good way for either the community to contribute these labels or teams themselves to contribute? Like, let's say Railgun sees this and they're like, oh, these top 5 addresses are ours. Like all these DEX trader addresses are ours. What is the best way for them to contribute?
That's a great question. Let me see if we still have this link active. I think maybe we don't. We used to have oh yeah, we do. So the thing you can do right away is just go to nansen.ai/submit. And that's going to take you to a form, and you can actually submit a label. So that's one way to do it. The other way to do it is just to join our Discord and give us a heads up. And then the third way, which you can't do yet, is that we're going to add a call to action inside of the actual product, so that if you see something that you want to label, you can more conveniently just click, submit the label here, and then you can do it. So I think for now, what I would say is like join the Discord, but we are going to add direct call to actions in the product where you can submit labels, and of course we will review them. We don't just uncritically accept submissions, but that's probably the best way to go for now.
I'm just thinking out loud here, because I think our data would be even better if we worked with teams specifically to validate it. Yeah. Again, just thinking out loud here, I'm not saying this is going to happen, but what if we had an option where teams could verify the data that we've submitted, like the labels that we have? And if they verify the data, first of all, we'll put like a little badge saying like team verified on the page, but we can also offer the team a Nansen account or something like that, so they can continue to explore their data and be kind of like a little trade of them verifying the data and us giving them an account.
Definitely not a bad idea.
All right, we'll think that through further. Maybe it won't be exactly as described there, but if you're a team who has data on Nansen and you want to help validate it and make sure we've got the correct labels, although we always try and make extremely sure that our labels are correct, please reach out and we can work with you guys on either on Discord or somewhere.
Good stuff. Do we have any last questions in the chat?
Visor Finance. Oh, and also the ETH2 deposit contract. Maybe we can start with that since we've already done Token God Mode project.
Yeah. So ETH2 deposit contract. What does this show? This shows the amount of Ether that has been deployed into the so-called deposit contract, where it's going to be migrated to Ethereum 2.0. And for now, that Ether is being used to run validators on the Beacon chain in Ethereum 2. So this dashboard shows, some macro stats, like how much Ether has been actually deposited, and it's more than 6 million now, which is amazing. that has been made by 37.8 thousand unique depositors. So these are unique addresses depositing Ether, which is really cool. And that has resulted in 194,000 unique validators on the Beacon chain in Ethereum 2.0. And I tweeted about this earlier today, but Lido has now become the top address in ETH deposited to Ethereum 2.0. That's pretty cool. It used to be this Kraken wallet. Of course, as many people pointed out, Kraken has two wallets here. So, and Lido has only one, right? But in terms of an individual address that has deposited ETH, Lido is now number one. Down here to the left, you can actually also see the distribution per entity. So here we've aggregated the different Kraken wallets, and we see that it has 774,000 in total. But Lido is actually still number two, like on that ranking as well. It takes a little bit more to flip Kraken on that metric, but that's pretty cool. So that's the status there on ETH2 deposit contract. Any specific questions in the chat there about that, or just an overview?
I think they just wanted an overview.
Cool.
If you have any specific questions, feel free to ask in the chat there.
I wanted to maybe show also an ETH tracker. I think we have like a ranking of the top addresses that hold Ether. And this, I think, is a pretty cool thing to keep an eye on, because that deposit contract we just looked at now, we basically have labeled that Ethereum 2.0 here because it's kind of like a bridge to Ethereum 2.0. And it's pretty close to becoming the single largest balance on Ethereum 1. It just needs to flip wrapped Ether, and it will be the top account on Ethereum 1. And after that, I don't think there's any going back. Of course, it's just going to keep receiving more and more Ether over time. But that's pretty cool. It shows that people are confident about this future of Ethereum 2.0 eventually becoming a reality.
What are those unlabeled ETH billionaire contracts?
Oh man, so there's this one, and then there's the bottom one. I think the bottom one, I don't know why, because it seems like that's an exchange. So I'm not sure why it's surfacing the ETH billionaire label. If we click through on it, I'm pretty sure we'll see which exchange it is. That seems to be kind of like a small, it's not exactly a glitch, but it's just surfacing a less useful wallet label. I'm not sure why, to be honest. Binance, it says. So that's a Binance wallet. Maybe it was recently added. The other one, I think I've done some research on this one, and if you look at the counterparties, you can sort of get some ideas maybe about what it is. But it requires a bit of digging, because it receives tons of Ether from this other address, which you can also click through on. And I think this one has some links to like Gemini, and I think also a certain fund. So the short answer is we don't know. The longer answer is you can see something here that has a connection to Gemini and also jump trading, but we don't have enough information to label it accurately, so it remains an ETH billionaire.
Do we have what's that like ETH, the Grayscale Trust one label?
I don't think we do, actually, but I got a tip from a certain big whale involved with that project that it shouldn't be too hard to track down. So maybe that's, I don't want to speculate that this is the one, but maybe it's worth putting some resources into tracking it down.
Cool. Um, I think maybe we should. This is a great question. Is Nansen hiring? If so, what do you look for in candidates?
Ooh, that's a good question. Yes, we are hiring. What do we look for in candidates? That's actually so I'll try to answer it in a generic way because it depends obviously for different roles. If you're applying as a research engineer or a research analyst, that could be very different from, say, a customer success manager, um, or someone who works with, say, marketing, for example. I would say a few things we look for. And also within those groups, it actually does depend quite a bit. So if you take crypto interest, for some of the roles, it's a must-have. Like you have to be deep into the weeds if you're a research analyst at Nansen, as an example. So typically we will look for hands-on experience using, obviously, like using MetaMask or doing yield farming, maybe testing out different projects, reading up on them. We don't kind of judge on like what projects you are interested in or have invested in, but the fact that you have an eagerness and you're actually on the frontier of what's happening in DeFi and crypto is very important for like a research analyst position. And also, I would say for like most intern positions we have, that would be very important. We also, for most positions, we do look for a few years experience. Obviously not in the crypto space, but if you're a research engineer, we would expect that you have a few years of experience working with data science, data engineering, data analysis, or software engineering.
But can you clarify that there's a difference between like a research engineer and a research analyst?
Yeah, that's right. So
can you make that distinction clear?
So research engineer typically is someone who can ship code. A research analyst is someone who can write content pieces. That's the simplest way I can describe it. So a research analyst, typically their output would be analyses and content pieces that we publish either with our community or with our alpha tier customers. But the research engineer primarily will create algorithms. They will push code to production. They will be improving our internal tooling and so on. So that's the main distinction between research engineer and research analyst.
Cool. On that note, we are looking for, so one of the questions is Nansen hiring? We are looking for a research analyst specifically in our alpha, for our alpha tier users. The kind of broad parameters would be that you're working with top tier traders in the space to deep dive on projects that they're looking at, and helping them figure out the on-chain stats, the on-chain data, the token movements, all that kind of stuff. So we're definitely looking for someone like that. Kind of requirements would be, you don't need necessarily experience with like a customer facing role, although that is certainly a plus. But just someone kind of outgoing, nice, smart. I don't know. I don't know if we'd list exactly those characteristics on the JD, but yeah, that's roughly it. I'm looking for that for my team.
And we want to be a company where you can experience a lot of personal growth. So we don't expect that you know everything from day one, right? Obviously, you can get trained on the job. It's a really cool working environment where there's a lot of people around you to learn from. People are very friendly. We don't have a very competitive culture within the team, like between the different team members. People are very collaborative. So I think it's a really good place to work, and our ambition is to make Nansen the #1 workplace in crypto and eventually on Earth. But what you can do right away is you can go to docs.nansen.ai, and there is a section called careers, and there are already some job descriptions posted. We are going to post more because, as you may know, we recently closed a Series A round of funding from Andreessen Horowitz, which means we can level up our ambition as well. So we are going to probably double the headcount. We're about 30 people now, and we're aiming to grow to, I would say, around 60 people. by the end of this year. So there's definitely going to be a lot of hiring going on over the next few months. So check out the job descriptions that are already on the website and bookmark the page, because we're going to be posting more job descriptions very, very soon. Probably over the next few days, you'll see more job descriptions coming out there.
If none of those job descriptions really fit your interests either, and you're just interested in diving in on chain, finding new wallet labels, identifying entities and stuff like that, we also have the Scouts program where we work with people in the community just to give them the top tier tools so that they can find information and kind of contribute to the product and sort of be behind the scenes as well with us.
That's right. So just ask us in the Discord channel about the Scouts program. That's, as Daniel said, like some people might not want to work full time in a company, but they want to help out here and there and get compensated for it. And then the Scouts program is a really good alternative. So there should be, I don't have the link in front of me now, but there is an application form you can fill out, and it's pretty fast. So if you go through the application, hopefully within like 48 hours, if it looks like you're a good fit for it, we'll probably onboard you within 48 hours after you complete the application.
We're a bit over time here, but I do have one final question for you. Not to put you on the spot here. So you mentioned we'd be doubling the headcount in the next sort of, what's the timeline on that?
Probably 6 months. 6 months.
And what could, if someone is looking to join the team at Nansen now, like what might change between now and 6 months from now? Like what is the goal of that increased headcount? What's the plan there?
So the organization we have right now, I think we can allow ourselves to go a bit over time here and talk about this. If people are only interested in the product, they can tune out. So right now, the organization has been designed to room what I would say around 30 people. And we managed to get to 30 people in the organization a lot faster than I expected. And so now we have to say, well, how can we shape the organization for kind of the next doubling, right, of the headcount? And there are a few different areas. We have like a monolithic product team right now. And one thing we want to do is break that out into different product divisions. And probably the different product divisions we will have will be one focused on the core analytics product. That's like the Nansen platform that most people use today. Then we will probably have a dedicated product team for the alpha offering, which involves additional offerings than just the dashboard itself. There's a whole community within the alpha tier. We want to make sure that can be as productive as possible for the people in that community. Perhaps there might be interesting ways to even co-invest, for example, in early stage deals, which many people are interested in. So that's like going to be its own autonomous and empowered product team. And then there is a completely new product team, which is going to be the institutional product team, because we have a lot of larger clients that come to us and have needs that aren't fully met by just interfacing with our current UI. They might need API access. They might need, just a different way to consume the data. And so we're also going to build out a autonomous institutional team that focuses on that. And all these will be sitting inside of the product organization. And that means we're growing the overall product team itself, right? And the alpha, both the alpha product team and the institutional one will probably also have their own commercial roles, right? Like sales reps that are working specifically for those customer segments. They will have, customer success managers that are embedded into those teams as well. Then, as you know, as someone who leads the growth team, we've been also ramping up on like the marketing division, and probably marketing itself becomes its own team, right? Because we have more means to attract visitors to our website, to reach out to the right customers. And so the marketing team will probably get more resources allocated to it. So those are some of the things. And there's still like a backlog of roles that we want to fill into the existing teams. Like we have a platform team with excellent engineers, right? We need to add more software engineers there. We are probably going to have to also find really good DevOps engineers to help them out. There's the attribution team, which does all of the labeling, both kind of the human intelligence side, but also just like having proper processes to compile input from scouts, from external providers of data, scraping data, and then also developing the heuristics that tag up like 99% of the addresses that we tag. So there's like a lot of roles to fill in the existing teams too. But yeah, that's kind of roughly how I look at it in terms of how we're growing the organization.
Cool. Well, I'm excited for the ride, and I definitely appreciate, and I think the community appreciates your transparency and how you're thinking this thing through. I think everyone's figuring out this brave new world of crypto, but it's cool to have a steady captain at the helm here, figuring these things out and leading our team.
Yeah, we have been building Nansen in public since the beginning. So I don't think that's going to change anytime soon. It's going to be fun for people to follow along on the ride. If you are contributing, as one of our customers or as a scout, or even just watching these videos and enjoying the content, you're welcome to stay along for the ride.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to wrap things up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. This has been a nice long office hours, but it's good to be back doing these office hours. So we'll be back next week at the same time. And anything else to add, Alex?
No, I think that's a good wrap up.
Cool.
See you next time.
See you, everyone.